Okay guys, so today we're doing applications of laws of sine and cosine, which is essentially taking everything you guys learned yesterday, but just applying it to a real world problem where you have to sketch the triangle yourself before you can jump into using the formula. Alright, so if we're looking at this first one, Juan and Ramela are standing at the seashore 10 miles apart. The coastline is a straight line distance between them. Both can see the same ship in the water. The angle between the coastline and Juan is 35 degrees. The angle between the coastline and Ramela is 45 degrees. How far is the ship from Juan? Alright, so we know we're going to have a triangle, obviously. And if we think about this as the coastline, think about here's Juan and Ramela. Then out in the ocean, both of them see a ship. Let's call that a boat. Alright, the distance between them on the shore is 10 miles apart. We know that the angle between the coastline and Juan is 35 degrees. And then the angle between the coastline and Ramela is 45 degrees. And the side that they want me to find, how far is the ship from Juan? Alright, so first off, we know that we could go ahead and find the missing angle at the bottom by doing 180 minus 45 minus 35, and we see that that angle should be 100 degrees. Alright, from there, if I notice that we have a pair, then that would be a law of sine setup. Alright, so I would do sine of 100 over 10 equals the sine of 45 over x. Alright, and as you learned yesterday, cross multiply. So 10 times the sine of 45 equals x times the sine of 100. And what we're going to end up doing here is dividing both sides by 100. Or sorry, the sine of 100. Try to type as much of this into your calculator at once as you can. So 10 sine 45, close that. If you want to go ahead and hit enter, but then I would just hit divide instead of rounding that to 8.5 so that we can use all of that decimal. Divide that by the sine of 100. Ooh, and my calculator is in the wrong mode, so here's a great time to fix that. Alright, so let's try again. Got it. Alright, so in this case, the distance to the nearest tenth, because it doesn't specify, would be 40.7, and then our units are miles. Alright, for the second one, alright, 3 boats are out at sea, so we could go ahead and sketch. We know we're going to have a triangle. Alright, the boats are named Jenny 1, Jenny 2, Jenny 3. Alright, the crew of Jenny 1 can see both J2 and 3. The angle between the line of sight to J2 and J3 is 45 degrees. So the angle between these two from the first boat is 45 degrees. Alright, if the distance between J1 and J2 is 2 miles, and the distance between J1 and J3 is 4 miles, what is the distance between J2 and J3? Alright, so in this case we only have one angle, and the angle that we have is across from a side that's missing. We do not have enough to make a pair, so I know that means I'm going to have to do law of cosines. Alright, so on the outside we have our missing side, and then set up law of cosines with the two sides we do have, since we have a side angle side set up. So 2 squared plus 4 squared minus 2 times 4 times the cosine of 45. And again, we can type all of this into our calculator at once. So 2 squared plus 4 squared minus 2 times 4 cosine 45, and do the whole string at once. And we get that that's roughly 8.69. And then if we take the square root of that, we get that our distance is roughly 2.9 miles. Don't forget your units. All right, for question 3, oh, sorry, I guess I went backwards the other way. Question actual 2, third question. All right, Larry, Curly, and Mo are camping in their tents and have cut paths through the woods to each person's tent. So go ahead and sketch my triangle. All right, one represents Larry, Curly, Mo. If the path between Larry and Curly is 153 feet, and the path between Curly and Mo is 175 feet, the angle between the path from Larry to Curly and Larry to Mo is 32. So if we think about highlighting this, from Larry to Curly and Larry to Mo, we're talking about this angle right here at Larry is 32 degrees. The question is, how long is the path from Larry to Mo? So this is what we're looking for here. All right, in this case, we also only have one angle, but we do have enough to make a pair, which means I can at least start with law of sines. So first I would say sine of 32 over 175. Now in this case, we're forced to use the 153 because it's the only other side that we have. So we would say sine of m over 153. All right, when we cross multiply, what we're really going to divide both sides by is going to be 175. So in our calculators, we've got 153 sine 132. Divide that by 175. Now that decimal that we get is equal to the sine of m, not angle m. So to find actual angle m, we have to do inverse sine of that decimal. So in our calculators, second sine, 0.6497, rounded to the nearest degree, angle m would be 41 degrees. Okay? So now in this case, we're still not done. So secondly, now that we know 2 of the angles, we can easily come in and find the third by subtracting 32 and 41. And we get 107. And then our last step would just be to do law of sines again, now looking at this pair. So sine of 107 over x. And I would compare that back just to the 32 and 175. As a general rule, it's best to use what they give you to start with if possible. So this would be x times the sine of 32 equals 175 times the sine of 107. Both sides would get divided by the sine of 32. All right. And we get that that's roughly 315.8 feet. Okay.